to Get Your Bell Ring Pro Wrestling Podcast. My name is KG. I am your host, and guys, I have me, a multiple time champion as a guest, Damian. Costio. Is that got it right?
Yeah, that's the shoot last name. You just Damian Wayne is it, bud?
Damian Wayne, right? You are a three-time NWA National Heavyweight Champion, a former holder of the NWA North American Heavyweight Championship, and you're a former AIWF World Heavyweight Champion, and that's just a couple of your accomplishments in professional wrestling. I mean, I could probably go on for 5 minutes listing the belts, and we're going to talk about some of that. How are you doing?
Man, doing really good, man. Just getting ready to get home and relax for the weekend. No shows this weekend, so it's relax at home for once.
Yeah, I feel you, man. Right away, Bob Cook says, "Hello, sir."
Man, I love that guy. That's the best punch in professional wrestling.
Thank you. My co-host, well, Bob's one of my co-hosts on Tuesdays, but my co-host for every episode that I do, a guy by the name of Mark, and he swears that Dustin Rhodes is the best punch. And I've been arguing with this guy forever. I got Bagwell, and now you are now saying Bob Cook is the best punch in the business. So Mark, kiss all of our asses, man.
Yeah, Bob Cook all the way. Dustin's got a good one, but I don't think I'd even put Dustin in my top 10.
Right. I hear you. So I want to play something for you, and I want you to tell me about who that guy was back then, and as a professional wrestler, and who this guy is now as a professional wrestler. I hope you can hear the volume. I just started being able to use video, so it's been a little wonky. Let's hope it works out for you. I'm going to play this video real quick.
Right here, NWA Mid-Atlantic. Who's better than Damian Wayne to come to the area that's best known for champions and legends? You see, I've carved a pathway to the NWA myself. I am the uncrowned NWA World Heavyweight Champion. And what you got to realize is when you see my name on the marquee, you're getting your money worth. I am Damian Wayne, and you'll find out that I'm the experience of a lifetime.
Man, tell me about that promo, and tell me the difference between Damian Wayne now and Damian Wayne back then.
That promo was for short-lived promotion, and we actually the guy that was going to promote it his name was Matt Epling, and he had us come in. I want to say it was in West Virginia somewhere, but it was like a little baseball training facility place. But he had us come in to do a bunch of promos and do a bunch of what you call it, slipping my head, like on Raw and stuff when they're like, so-and-so is going to wrestle so-and-so, and it does a little turn to the camera and it freezes. So he had us come do a bunch of those. So that was for that. From then to now, I would definitely say grown up, although I'm an old fart, and I was an old fart when I got in the business. Much more grown up. That promo to me now is horrible.
Really?
Yeah, I would definitely be like, nope, I got to do that one again if that was me today.
Now, how many takes did you have to do, say, a promo like that? It's 50 seconds long. Did you get it on the first take, or is there multiple takes?
I'm pretty good on doing it on the first take. I prefer my promos almost the same way I prefer my wrestling matches. I prefer to be sitting there minding my own business, and all of a sudden you come up and say, "Hey, Dub, I need a promo about blah 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 blah," and then I go cut it. That doesn't give me time to think about it, because then to me, when I think about it, then I'm trying to think of shit to say, and then I start fumbling when I go cut the promo. So I prefer just to do it on the fly, and I would say 9.5 out of 10 times I can bust it on the first one. I'm pretty good on that.
Awesome. Now, I wanted to get to know who Damian Wayne is. Where were you born?
I was born in Hampton, Virginia, right there on the coast, right by around Norfolk, Virginia Beach area.
Yeah, and tell me about your parents. Did you have a close relationship with them?
Had a really close relationship with my mother. I think my mother and father got divorced when I was like 2, but I was huge mother's boy. So yeah, really, really close with my mom. My dad now, he came and got me every weekend and stuff like that, but it was mainly camping and fishing type stuff, So, but my mom was my be all.
Okay. Now, tell me about your school life. Were you very athletic? Did you play sports in school?
Yeah, I was a big baseball head growing up, and then I played a few years of rec league football, which looking back now on hindsight, I wish I would have pursued football through high school, but I kind of had it made there and didn't know it at the time, and I loved baseball too much at the time.
Right. At what age did you start watching professional wrestling?
I stumbled on that at about 7 years old. I was just, I remember I was at my grandma's watching cartoons, change the channel, and I know it was Mid-Atlantic Championship Wrestling. I couldn't tell you who was wrestling or anything like that. It was 1978. I was 7 years old, and I was hooked right there. I was yelling, Mom, look at this. This is what I want to do. She was like, you don't even know what this is. And I was like, I don't care. This is what I want to do. So I was hooked immediately.
Did you have a particular professional wrestler that really influenced you growing up?
Well, for me, I was blessed to live at least up to like 12 or 13 true kayfabe. So I got to experience that. So, when I first started watching wrestling, I was like any other little kid. I liked all the good guys. And then I remember Nikita Koloff made his in front of a crowd. He hadn't been on TV yet, but he came out with Ivan at the Hinton Coliseum. And at first we thought it was Road Warrior Hawk. We were like, oh man, Hawk's done turned heel, And then because he only had jeans on and a white wife beater on.
Right.
So then Ivan got on the mic, said who he was. It was my nephew. So the very next show, me and my best friend sitting front row with a Russian flag. We were total Nikita marks, man. So we kind of became heel marks before that was cool. And so that happened. And then when I was about 12 or 13, is when 2020 broke the secrets for kayfabe.
Right.
And my favorites became the guys that made me still believe what I was watching. And from that point to now is never changed. And my top, I would say 6, because I tie the top 5, or tie number 5. But number 1's Tully Blanchard. Number 2's Barry Windham. Number 3's Rick Rude. Number 4's Jake Roberts. Number 5's Terry Funk. Number 6, Manny Fernandez. And to this day, they're still my favorites. And I've been blessed to learn from them. All of them except for Rick Rude. He's the only one I didn't get to meet.
Right. You just named the guys. Oh, we lost him. Hopefully he'll be able to come back. I'll send him oh, there he is. There you go, my man.
Big thumb syndrome.
Yeah. That's why I have a Samsung and not an Apple, man. Apple's way too small for my.
Yeah, I can't stand Apple.
Yeah, but the guys you just mentioned, man, were exactly the guys I grew up watching. I grew up in the South, grew up watching Mid-South wrestling, Georgia Championship Wrestling. Now, for me, I was fortunate because kayfabe didn't, that wasn't really revealed to me till I was probably about 15 years old, which some people say that's a little old for you to not realize that professional wrestling wasn't predetermined. But I was such a big fan, man, and I'm like you. I really didn't care. Tully Blanchard, Ric Flair. I was an old Anderson guy, and an Arn Anderson guy. But Barry Windham, yeah, all those guys were great as well. At what point did you decide that? I know you said that you were 7 and you said, I want to do this for a living, right? But a lot of us at 7 years old say we want to do different things for a living when we grow up. At what point did you become serious about that and actually take the first step to become a professional wrestler?
Oh man. Well, my first taking a shot was in 1989 when I graduated. Luthez, probably 20 minutes from me over in Norfolk, he had a school. And I called him on my graduation day and, talked to him. And he said, you got to weigh at least 200 to get in my school. And at that time, I couldn't even break 190. I think 188 was the heaviest I ever weighed. So I was like, well, shit, that ain't going to happen. And so I kind of put that on the back burner. Like I said, I was still playing baseball a little bit at that time. Just lived life. I got married at 25. Sitting around the computer, which the internet was just coming out about at that time. I was 29. This was 2001, and I came across a promotion that actually ran shows like a block from where I worked in the industrial part, but they ran at a bar inside of an Omni hotel. But I didn't even know they were there. They ran there for like 3 years. They were running there, and I had no clue about them. But I talked to whoever was answering my email at the time, and I was 29 and 166 pounds, man. I looked like a freaking crackhead. And I was like, so wrestling wasn't really in the question. I was like, I just want to be in the business. I want to do ring crew. I'll referee. I'll do any of that just to be in the business. And they said that, it's funny you emailing us. This was in November. They said we're opening up a school in March. We got tryouts right before our January show. Da, 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 da. So I went to the tryouts, and it was probably about 26, 27 of us. And there I was. This was I just turned 30 because my birthday's in December. So I just turned 30. And the next closest age in there was 22. So I was like at least 8 years older than everybody. And so I did the tryouts. We backyard when I grew up, what we saw on TV, we did on the grass. We were power slamming each other, suplexing, jumping off of things and dropping elbows. So I knew how to bump, but I was bumping on grass, and only time I ever been in a real wrestling ring was, my best friend's mom worked tickets booth at the Hampton Coliseum, so we got in free, and we'd get in early, and we'd see him put up the ring sometimes. So I kind of knew what it was, but so when how they try to tell you to crouch down and cross your arms to take that first bump, I did that, and it felt weird. So I opened up my big mouth and was like, "Can I bump the way I kind of knew how to bump from back in the day?" So I snap bumped, and they looked at me and shot. And so I bumped, and then the two guys that ended up being my two trainers, one of them I could tell it's like every time I looked, looked like he was burning a hole through me, looking at me. I was like, I done got on the bad side of these guys and shit. So it was like, run the ropes. This is the hardest thing to learn to do, and this and that. And I made sure I put myself about in the middle of the pack so I could at least see a few people do stuff before I did it. And so I saw them run the ropes, and man, there was people tripping, there was people stumbling, they were falling through the ropes and everything like that. And I got up there and did it nice and smooth, man. And I felt like I did it right and everything. So I stopped, and Phil Brown, one of my trainers, he was like, "Hey, come here." And I'm like, "Oh Lord, I done pissed these guys off. What have I done?" And as he called me and I was walking over there, he was like, "Hey, PQ, come here." And PQ ended up being my other trainer. They were my two trainers. And they were like, "How long you say you ain't never did this before?" And I was like, "Oh, I promise you I haven't." And they were like, "You ain't never trained anywhere?" And I was like, "No, man, I'm 30 years old. Where am I going? I didn't even know this shit existed, to tell you the God's honest truth, because everything I grew up on was, I thought, big time wrestling." And they said, "Well, you look like you've been doing this for like 15 years. I'm like, "Oh, I thought y'all were gonna ream my ass." But so when they opened up the school, the very first night's class, we had like 26, 27 of us, mostly the same group of guys. But out of all those guys, I was the only one to make it.
Wow.
Now I had guys graduate with me, but they came in like 3 weeks, a month later. But out of that very first class, I was the only, my old ass was the only one to make it.
Wow. So I have to ask you, were you a Hogan fan?
No.
No.
Not as a kid. As I got older, I understood him, but as I was a Flair. I was a Flair guy.
Right. So as I was as well, I didn't get into Hogan too much later because I grew up with the NWA champion, which was Ric Flair. Matthew Rodriguez wants to know. He says, "Hey, Damian, question: memories of working with Jim Duggan in Heat?"
Yeah, that was a blessing, man. It was actually the second time that I got to wrestle at the Hampton Coliseum, where I grew up since I was 7, going to see wrestling forever. But I got to wrestle there for WWE. It was for Sunday Night Heat. It was Raw. It was a Raw taping. But I got to work Duggan, Hacksaw Jim Duggan, on Sunday Night Heat, and it meant a lot to me because, for one, he gave me he had me jump him and gave me offense, so I got to do a little bit instead of just going in there and getting my butt whipped. And as soon as it was actually the very first night they went HD on their TV broadcast. But as soon as I got back through the curtain, that gorilla position, Victoria, Lisa Vachon, or however you say her last name, she was standing right there and was like putting me over she was like, "Man, you just made him look like $1 million." And then when Duggan got back through, he pulled me to the side and just like thanked me up and down. He was like, "I really needed that, man. You really made me look so." That made me feel good. So yeah, working Duggan was amazing.
Awesome. And of course, as we talked before we went on air, my research is at the mercy of the internet. According to my research, you made your debut August 10th, 2002, teaming with T.E. Brown against then VCW Tag Team Champions Greg Steele and Idol X. Is that correct?
Yep. Trey was a trainee with me. I got blessed because about 2 months into training, there was another guy named Mike Booth, went by Big Time Mike Booth. And our trainers and the promoter of the promotion there knew they wanted to put me and him together as a tag team. So the last 4 or 5 months of our training, we did everything as a tag team. So I had tag team psychology drilled in my head before I even started. And my first 1 or 2 matches was singles, but then we started tagging. But in that match there, they had me turn on my partner and go heel and join a manager by the name of Devin Sturgis. Yep, and that was in Gloucester, Virginia.
Now, did you spend the majority of your career as a heel?
Yeah, I would say up to this point, I would say probably 60% heel, 40% baby.
What do you prefer?
It all depends on where I'm at. If I'm going somewhere new or somewhere that really nobody's seen me, that it's much easier to be a heel. And if it's somewheres that I'm pretty established or most of them know who I am, it's really easy. I mean, it's easy to be a baby anywhere because once I start working, because I cheat more as a baby face than most heels do. So,
Right.
but yeah.
Now you competed, and we talked about you competed in WWE, Ring of Honor, and Full Impact Pro Wrestling. Tell me about each of those runs. Talk to me first about WWE and your run there.
I just had quite a few dark matches with them. My tryout went really, really well until they found out how old I was, because I think I was 37 or 38 when I was getting those opportunities. But they enjoyed what they saw, and all that good stuff. But yeah, I knew once I started training at 30 years old that I wasn't getting a contract. So.
Well, that's crazy because in today's world, I mean, we're seeing guys that are 4 years old who they're putting the world title on for the first time now.
Yeah, but see what, like I tell everybody that brings stuff up like that, I'm like, but you got to realize those guys are well
Right.
established and traveled and everything like that. They won't just some guy that's 5 years in the business, unless you're some special phenom or something. But yeah.
Yeah. Now, talk to me about Ring of Honor.
Ring of Honor, that was amazing. Me and a buddy who lived in North Carolina, he's still to this day one of my best friends, but he wrestled at Rex Sterling. We had some great matches with each other, but before Ring of Honor broke out of the North, before they expanded and all that stuff, me, him, and a fan that we knew, we drove to Edison, New Jersey to see a Ring of Honor show. We both had our DVDs. And we watched the show. We looked everywhere for Gabe. Couldn't find Gabe. Never saw him. We stayed. We watched the whole show. At the end of the show, there's people everywhere. We still can't find Gabe, man. So people are finally starting to pour out of the building. We're like, man, we got to give our DVDs to somebody, man. So we went and gave them to somebody at the ring crew. And as soon as we gave them a walk away, I looked at Rex. I said, Gabe ain't never going to see those damn things. And about 6 months later, we both got emails from Gabe saying he liked what he saw and brought us in for a couple of pre-show matches for Ring of Honor, and liked what he saw there. We got quite a few pre-show matches. We had one match against each other for their Do or Die show in Philadelphia. We won the Philly crowd over, so that was pretty freaking amazing. He told us he liked everything about us, just he didn't have a spot for us in Ring of Honor. But that was at the time that they were working with. He was also booking FIP, so he said, we can let you, get into FIP and we'll, I can work you there. So me and Rex went down there, and he ended up actually putting us together as a tag team. And we worked there for a little while until Rex had some personal stuff come up and he couldn't team anymore. And then I got they said, hey, you got anybody else you want to do? And so I brought in a really, really close buddy of mine. And the first match we had, he broke his leg. So I was like, yeah, man, maybe this tag team thing is cursed. So
right now, did you come across or wrestle anyone who went on to WWE? Because it seems like Ring of Honor, man, has produced so many stars.
Oh yeah. Shoot, I wrestled. Well, I know my biggest match there was I did a 4-way for their world title. It was when Nigel McGuinness had it. It was me, Nigel, Brett Albright, and Claudio. So that had that. Wrestled Necro Butcher and Delirious. They were 2 guys with me and another guy in a 4-way. Let's see. Man, my one brain cell doesn't work too often. Too many chair shots. But I had some really I had some really good stuff with when Gabe was. He seemed to really like me. I know when I did my FIP at my second match for FIP, as soon as I finished, I got to wrestle Jarrell Clark. It was a really good match. But as soon as I finished, he pulled me aside and was like, I want you to challenge Eric Stevens' Florida Heritage title. And I was like, holy hell, I just got here. And he's already telling me to do, I was shocked. And I sat and talked to Roderick Strong for a hot minute. And he was like,
wow.
yeah, Gabe. Yeah, Roger. Funny story about that is me and Rex and another buddy that traveled with us. Rex didn't, but me and my other buddy played baseball, like I said, but Rex would throw with us. So we all brought our baseball gloves and our ball. So we were throwing, and Gabe came out and he was throwing with us. And later that evening after the show for dinner, we were saying, and Gabe walked by Roddy and said, yeah, Roddy, I think we found somebody that's got a stronger arm than you. Because I had a pretty good arm until I threw it out playing softball. But he was like, yeah, I think we got somebody stronger than you, Roddy, throwing the ball harder than you. And I was like, oh, my God, now I'm going to have Roddy Strong pissed at me because I'm up here. But Roddy was a really good guy, too. So.
Man, I tell you what, Roderick Strong right now is one of my favorite guys in AEW. But there's this joke that me and my co-host always talks about. Every time we look at Roderick Strong, I swear to you, he reminds me of a science teacher. He just has that look. He really does. But he is so damn good in the ring, man.
I could see that. I could definitely see the teacher.
Yeah. So what do you think about what's happening with Ring of Honor right now since Tony Khan has taken control of it?
I mean, granted, it's a place for the guys to work, but it's nothing that I can watch or anything like that. It's just that style's not what I enjoy watching. And
well, part of the problem, Damian, is I know Ring of Honor wasn't this huge globally known wrestling promotion, but back in the old days of with Ring of Honor, we were, I was able to watch on TV. I think it came on at 11 o'clock at night where I'm at here in Minnesota, whereas now the only place you can possibly it is if you go to the website. Yeah, that's so unfortunate because Ring of Honor, although it wasn't this major global company, it was still pretty damn well known because, again, Ring of Honor has produced some major talent over the years.
Oh, man. Well, the night that we went with our DVDs, that I think about halfway into the show, me and Rex looked at each other basically at the same time. We were like, this is where we want to wrestle right here. Because back then it was wrestling. I mean, they were doing the typical, kind of, a little more fancier dives and stuff like that, but it wasn't like every single match and 20 times a match like it is now. It meant something then.
Right.
So we were like, man, this place is it. This is where we really want to wrestle at. So yeah, as for it today, I can't.
Right. Now, talk to me about Full Impact Pro Wrestling. You were a member of the Heartbreak Express.
Yeah, that's like they put me and Rex with excuse me, Sean Davis was the manager. He had a guy named Phil that was like his muscle. I want to say, was Rhett Titus with us? I think Rhett Titus was with us. He was just breaking in. Rhett Titus was actually my very first. He was coming out of their school, but anyways, I think he was with us. Baby Doll was traveling with me, so he got Baby Doll with us. But me and Rex was tag team. We were the Heartbreak Assassins. But that was fun. It was like with Gabe, when Gabe was booking, I was getting it's not that I cared who or what I was really doing, but when Gabe was booking, I was getting kind of important stuff, good matches, plus I was driving 13, 14 hours from Carolina to all these Florida places. And but then when Gabe left and whatnot, it was like I was just being put in these throwaway matches, just stuff like to where I was like, the drive's not worth it anymore. Right. But and it's funny because I'll go back and I'll look at like cagematch.com or whatever it's called and look at some of my matches that I've had, and it's like one in FIP was wrestling Kyle O'Reilly when he came in with Davey Richards. He was one of Davey Richards' trainees, and they put me in there with him, and I was one of Kyle's first matches and stuff. Wow. So had some good times down there.
Yeah, Kyle O'Reilly, man, he is one of those guys that you absolutely say, do not judge a book by its cover, because you see him just, his appearance, and you would think, man, there's no way that this man could handle professional wrestling or become, one of, professional wrestling stars. But then you see him in the ring, and just like we were talking about with Roderick Strong, man, this guy is so good now. He's one of the guys that's on top of my list as far as current professional wrestlers. Mm-hmm. Matthew Rodriguez with Batman, I appreciate you tuning in to the podcast. He said you also faced the Highlanders and Lance Cade and Trevor Murdoch. Who was more stiff? Just kidding. But I'll have a question from that. Man, Trevor Murdoch, it's incredible how much he looks like Dick Murdoch, which is, I'm assuming that's why he has the Murdoch last name, is because of his resemblance. How was it facing Lance Cade and Trevor Murdoch?
They were actually the very first dark match thing I got to do with WWE. It was at the John Paul Jones Center at University of Virginia. It was a Raw taping, and again, the match that I had was on a Sunday Night Heat, but I was originally supposed to work Umaga. This was like his third or fourth match on TV. Wow. So I was supposed to work Umaga, and then they my buddy Chris, the one I actually mentioned earlier about when Rex had to leave and I brought somebody else to Florida and he broke his leg, but we broke in training together, so he was a really good friend. But anyways, him and another young blonde guy was a tag team, and they were going to wrestle Cade and Murdoch. And then when they saw me, they were like, he don't look like no baby face, got to get beat up by Umaga. So they switched me with the other young guy and put me with Chris, which was pretty cool that both of our first WWE dark matches was together since we trained together. So yeah, we got to work Cade and Murdoch, and man, you talking about stiff. Me and Cade locked up to start the match, and we locked up, and he kind of just bent me over and just gave me a forearm to the back. He hit me so hard, I thought I was going to have to pick my guts up off the mat. I was like, good Lord. And I thought I worked stiff. And then it was also funny because their finish was, Cade would whip you off and kind of do that inverted atomic drop, and Murdoch would hit the ropes and give you the big boot. And I said, yeah, I'll take that. And so Murdoch all night. Every time I saw him, he was like, protect yourself, man. Protect yourself. Please, please, please protect yourself. I was like, yeah, I got you. I got you. And my trainer was also booked on there. And at the time, a lot of the guys would gather around the back and watch on the monitor what was going on out there. And he said that there was a bunch of guys watching what was going on. And he was sitting right beside Mick Foley. And when I ate that boot, he said Foley flew up out that seat and said, that's how you take that damn move right there. That's how you take that move. So that kind of made me pop that he liked how I did that. But it was funny because as soon as we got through the curtains, they started apologizing, and they were like, man, we're sorry. We were extra stiff with you guys. They wanted us to turn it up a notch. This was right before right as they were getting in that feud with Shawn and Triple H.
Mm-hmm.
So they were like, we had to really turn it up. They wanted to see if we could. And I was like, dude, man, we wouldn't have had it any other way.
Right.
But as we was walking up the ramp, me and Chris are kind of being helped up by the refs. And I'm whispering to Chris, I was like, man, the guys think I'm stiff now. Wait till I get back now. So, because I saw how hard these guys were hitting. I was like, yeah, okay, we're going to turn it up a notch now.
Now, Matthew has another question, but before we get to that, it's actually a question I had on my list to ask you. Before we get to that, you said something to me that made me scratch my head a little bit. So earlier you were talking about your dark match with WWE and how you kind of seen the writing on the wall that because of your age, they wasn't going to sign you, right? But then you just said that instead of you facing Umaga, because you look like a guy that Umaga just wouldn't have his way with, they changed your match. Did that make you wonder, why don't you guys sign me then? If I look like this guy that, Umaga, their monster at the time, can't just whip his ass, why don't you sign me? Go ahead.
Well, no, I think it was more of putting in the pretty white meat, baby face looking guy, blonde hair guy type thing. You see me come out, and you think immediately heel.
Right,
you're gonna immediately boo. So and a manga's a heel. So I got it. I got it totally as soon as they said it.
Got it.
I totally understood.
Got it. So Matthew, also want to ask, and again, this was a question I had, so we might as well go with it now. Any encounters with Vince McMahon, Johnny Ace, and etc., aka the writers of WWE in 2006, 7, or 8 during your tryouts?
I spoke to Vince, just hello, how you doing? A cool thing that did happen, speaking of Johnny Ace, was the very next night, Tuesday, was SmackDown and ECW taping. This is when they were doing their version of ECW. And during catering, we met another extra there, a guy that was there. And it was Kofi Kingston's TV debut. And they had him wrestling this other guy. And I was somewhere in the back, and my partner that I told you I broke in with, Booth, he was booked as an extra also. And he said he found a spot behind, it was Johnny Ace, Fit Finlay, and Dean Malenko. They were watching the monitor, and he said he kind of stood from a distance, but stood behind them to where he could see what was going on the monitor, but hear what they were saying. And he said that, excuse me. Well, the guy was out there trying to get himself over instead of putting Kofi over. And I can't remember if it was Fit or Dean that Mike said, turned and looked at the other ones and said, God damn it, we should have put that other bald-headed guy in there from last night. He knew exactly what to do with Duggan. He would have made Kofi look like a freaking champ. They were pissed at the other guy, but put me over saying, I knew what I was doing with Duggan and whatnot. So it wasn't me personal counter with Johnny Ace, but I got put over with them three. So I guess that was pretty good.
Yeah. Now, we always hear about the politics that supposedly happen backstage. And depending on who you talk to, some will say guys like HBK, uh, Triple H, and a lot of those guys that were the top guys back then were assholes. Other people say that they're the greatest guys in the world. Did you have an encounter with them as someone who was there trying out during dark matches? And if so, how did they treat you? And what'd you think about them?
No, I
Hey, Damian,
saw
can
them and
you,
stuff like that.
Damian, I'm sorry to interrupt you. Can you drop the camera down a little bit? There you go.
There you go.
Perfect.
Sorry, I was trying to get my earbuds back in, but I guess they died on me. But anyway, I haven't, I didn't talk or anything to Triple H, but there was one of my, was it the same night that I worked, Doug? And honestly can't remember, but I know we had to be there like at noon, so we were there all day and we changed into workout stuff, and we were all sitting out around the ring, and there was a bunch of them in the ring. I know there was Randy Orton, Shelton, Charlie Hawes, that Finley was with the girls, bunch of them in the ring, and then Arn Anderson and Shawn Michaels was sitting at the desk like where Lawler and Jim Ross would sit. And they were working with a guy named Daniel Rodenheimer, real big, like 6'5", 320, blonde, bodybuilder looking dude. And supposedly Stephanie was in love with this guy and wanted him on TV. I mean, he had the look, but they were trying to give him a finish. And they needed a crash test dummy. So I stood up and raised my hand real quick to be the crash test dummy. So I was in there I think I took some power slams. I took some F5s. But he was just kind of careless. And one cool thing was every time I took a bump, Randy Orton was over there helping me up, asking if I was okay and saying, dude's a freaking idiot, because it seemed like nobody liked him. But talking about Shawn or whatnot, Shawn was over there with Arn, and they were kind of making fun of him, and then they were like, give him the F5. And I think this was right when Brock left to go try to play for the Vikings or something like that. So they were like, we can give him the F5, and they were trying to, pick on Brock and shit like that. But other than that, really no interaction with them.
So guys like Superstar Billy Graham, Bret Hart, when they talked about the world, them having the world championship, when they had to drop the belts, they kind of took it personal because they believed that you were the face of the company when you had that belt. How was it for you when you had, you were, 3-time holder of the NWA National Heavyweight Championship, which means you had to drop the belt 3 times, right? Did you take it personal when they asked you to drop the belt, or was it something like, it's part of the story?
Nah, man. I never complained about Joe. One of the times, was it the first? It might have been the first time I offered to, drop the belt to Bordeaux Walker. But yeah, I didn't. Man, that don't. It's an honor to win a belt like that and have my name with the legend. I grew up on that belt. I grew up watching those guys defend that belt. But yeah, man, the winning and losing, that I've never cared about that. I surprised so many people with, like a quick little story, how it doesn't mean anything to me. I went to West Virginia for a guy, and he had me working this young kid, and I actually did a seminar, and the kid came to my seminar, and he seemed really, like he really wanted it and had it. So, I already liked him from there. So as I was talking to him more during the rest of the day leading up to the show, I was like, I really like this kid. He's a good kid. So we're back there, and me, him, and the ref are talking about the match, and I'm supposed to be going over, and I said, all right, we'll do this, da, 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 da. And I said, duck my line, and I was like, you know what the kitchen sink is? And he was like, yeah, when you throw the knee to the gut. And I was like, yeah. And he was like, yeah, I know what that is. And I was like, all right, can you take that? And he was like, yeah. And I was like, now, can you can you roll me up out of that? Go through it with the little sunset. He was like, what, like this? So we got up and he showed me. I was like, yeah, exactly like that. And he was like, yeah, I can do that. And I was like, all right. And I looked at the ref and I was like, that's where you count 1, 2, 3. And the kid's eyes was like, I'm going over. And I was like, yeah, kid, you're going over.
Right.
So stuff like that. That's so the one I went and argued with a promoter and booker for over 30 minutes that they wanted me and this guy to go to a draw. And I was like, dude, this guy's y'all's Hulk Hogan. This guy's like everything to you. Why do you want that in your main event? I came here to put this guy over in the middle of the ring. So after about 30 minutes of arguing, they came, all right, we'll do it. And I was like, well, I'm glad y'all decided that because I was still going to do it anyway.
Hey, are we doing okay on time? Are you still good?
Yeah, I'm good.
Okay, because you had such a tremendous career. There's just a few more questions I want to talk to you about. I eventually want to get to talk to you about DAWG, which is Dog, Dangerous Adrenaline Wrestling Gladiators. But before that, I want to talk to you about NWA. You're a three-time holder of the championship belt there. Um, was this the first time you held a world championship belt? Was it in NWA?
Well, I hadn't held the world title for the NWA. I'll tell you a story with NWA. I I was scheduled when Colt Cabana and Adam Pearce had that little thing over the NWA belt, and they threw it down or whatever, and da 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 da. I was scheduled to win the NWA world title. I was scheduled I was told for 2-3 months that it was me. Da, 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 da. I shitted out money to get my child support caught up, to get my passport, all that stuff. And everybody on the internet wanted it. Everybody was thinking I was going to win it. Da, 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 da. So I over 8 hours in New Jersey for the show. It was actually for Dog, Lawrence Zirconium and Dog in New Jersey. We were having the 8-man match with me and like Chance Prophet and Biggie Biggs and a couple other people. But anyways, I walk in the building and there's Fred Rubenstein, one of the owners of the NWA, and Paul Cahagas, Tokyo Monster Cahagas. And they were like, come here. So I went over there and they were like, well, since everybody thinks you're going to win, everybody knows you're going to win, da, 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 we're going to swerve the fans and we're going to have Paul come out and interject himself. And that's when Cahagas won the belt. So they were like, in a couple of weeks, we'll have y'all two come to Texas or Florida, and you'll win it there. Well, that never happened. So I guess they felt a little, little bad or whatever you want to call it. And they said, well, all right, well, we'll give you the national title. So that's how I ended up winning the NWA national title. So to me, I was like, all right, well, I'm going to take this title and make it mean more than the world title. And
Right.
I came close, I got, I think I made it mean, a pretty established, it was already an established belt, but yeah, that's how that ended up.
Talk to me about working with Marty Jannetty, and what was your personal relationship with him as well?
That was the first and only time I ever met him. It blew me away because he got there late and I was already dressed and whatnot, and he was changing, and I went up and asked him, what he wanted to do, and he was like, "I'll follow your lead." And to me, I'm like, "Holy shit, this is Marty Jannetty. This is a dude that's been there, done that." I was only 6'1", maybe 7 years in the business at that time. So, to have him tell me, I'll follow you and trust me, that was pretty cool. We actually had a pretty good match. I think his foot was messed up then or whatnot, but we still had a pretty good match.
Now, is it correct that you work for Smoky Mountain Wrestling?
I've worked there a few times for Tony Givens, yeah.
Okay. Was Cornette there at the time?
No. Well, no, this was different Smoky Mountain than Cornette Smoky Mountain.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, this was a guy named Tony Givens that ran NWA Smoky Mountain, which now it's called Innovate.
Got it. Got it. Now, I want to play a match of yours, a little bit of it. And this was 5 months ago. And I want you to talk to me about this match. Give me 1 second. All right, here we go.
Don't upload your videos to YouTube. Upload to Restream, where we will live stream it to YouTube.
Now, all right. Of course, that was a match against Salazar, Dila. I probably butchered his name.
De La Mutes.
Yeah. Yes. This is the question I have. He's a younger guy. What is it like working with younger talent like this compared to the talent of yesteryear when you first broke out in professional wrestling?
Well, wrestling anybody, I prefer to work on the fly. I don't mind having a basic layout and stuff, but like me and him worked on the fly. Salazar is really good. We didn't really have too much planned or anything like that. But there's guys like Vordell Walker, Chase Stevens. There's a lot that to where I wouldn't even have to talk to them, and we could go out there and wrestle 20, 30 minutes, no problem. A quick little story on something like that was me and Cue Ball Carmichael used to do a three-day camp, a Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, once a year. And the last one we did, I drove in from Tennessee, but I couldn't come to get there Friday night for the Friday night little session that we did. So I pulled up at like 9:45 Saturday morning, and we started our camp thing at 10, and we were doing it all day. And then we were going to drive an hour and a half to a buddy of ours show that was going to let a couple of the guys we picked wrestle. And then me and Cue Ball was wrestling each other for the main event. And me and Cue Ball know each other, but we wrestled each other maybe once, maybe twice, if that. Anyways, so I get there and we run the camp. We're doing the camp. We end up going. We get to the building for the show later that day. As soon as we get there, we get in the locker room. I see this nice, comfy chair, and I just sit in. And next thing I know, I guess I'm out. I'm passed out, sleep. And I come to, and when I come to, I see Cue Ball sitting in a chair across the room, and probably about 5 or 6 of the guys that was at our training camp. And they're all looking at me laughing. And I come to, and I start like, what, man, am I drooling on myself or something? And they were like, just, nah, man. And Cue Ball goes, they're just in awe that you're over there asleep and we're not talking about our match. And we haven't talked a word about our match. And I was like, what do we need to talk about? So they were totally blown away that me and Cue Ball hadn't said a word about it. Didn't even talk about the finish. And went out there and wrestled. And same thing happened here when I moved to Tennessee about 8-9 years ago. I started wrestling for a guy named James Carver, wrestling as Christian James up in Kentucky. But anyways, first time me and him wrestled each other, he was in his office part of because he was the promoter also, and he was changing. I was already changed, but his music started playing. And I jumped up out of where I was at and went around the corner, and he comes out of the office half dressed, still trying to get dressed. And he was like, holy shit, I didn't know we were wrestling already. And I was like, dude, you're a promoter booker. What do you mean you didn't know we were wrestling already? He was like, oh shit. He was like, what are we doing for the finish? Power driver? I go, yeah, I guess so. That was the only thing we spoke about the whole match. We went out there and worked for like 18 minutes and tore the roof off the place. So that's what I prefer. You know, I can do anything. If you want to call the whole thing out, I can do that. But I'll tell anybody, and I'll even mention it to guys, you know, longer in business than me, that hey, if we got this called, but I feel like something else is needed, then I'm gonna switch it. So just be prepared. It won't be nothing I can't call or tell you out there, but yeah, I prefer to work on the fly.
Is there anybody you have on your bucket list that you would love to be able to get in the ring with before you retire?
My bucket list at the time was Jay Lethal and Austin Aries. I probably wouldn't, with the way my body is now, my knees and all that, I probably wouldn't be able to. I'm more now of a Brody Hansen, Terry Funk brawler. So, and I do a lot with the crowd. I try to work the crowd a lot. So those two guys now are still at the point of where they're go 100 miles an hour, boom, 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 boom. So I probably wouldn't be able to hang with them now. But at the time, it was funny because at the time it was them two and Chase Stevens. And from the time I put that list on Facebook, which was probably 10 or 11 years ago, I think, I haven't wrestled either one of Lethal or Aries, but I've probably wrestled Chase 1,000 times since then.
Right. Do you have a favorite match you was involved in, and if so, why?
Man, I've been blessed to be and wrestle some of the best talent out there. If I had to put a gun to my head, I would say 2016, I had a match with a buddy of mine named Sean Denny, and I just was it then? Yeah, I think I just moved here, and it was going to be my last match back home, and I had their Liberty belt. And the show before that, they were talking about stripping me or, you know, taking it, but since I couldn't defend it. And I was like, no, somebody's going to have to beat me for it. Da, 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 da. So we set up me and Sean had a few blood feud all over the Mid-Atlantic. But anyways, we had a match, and yeah, I think that would probably be my all-time best match. Yeah, it was during their Liberty show.
A couple of questions, and I'll let you go, Damian. I know earlier you kind of alluded to you're not the biggest fans of AEW, but they AEW came to you and said, hey, we'd like you for a one-off, or have a few matches with us. Considering Roderick Strong that's there, Kyle O'Reilly, would you take them up on that offer?
Oh yeah. I mean, I wouldn't turn it down at all. No, and I got a lot of friends that I knew Shane Strickland when he started training before he was anything. I knew Roddy and Kyle. I know and got to work Samoa Joe before, so I know Joe. I know a lot of guys there, so I would die to work Samoa Joe in front of a TV crowd, somebody I know that's going to bring it back to me.
Yeah. Have you seen Joe's television show on Peacock called Twisted Metal?
I haven't got to watch it yet. I caught him one time. I was doing a show for Luke Hawks' Wildcat in Louisiana, and he was down there filming the first season. and he come to our show and just to hang out, and I saw him then, but I haven't got to watch it yet.
I tell you what, it really shows a side of Joe that I don't think has ever been highlighted in professional wrestling. He's absolutely great. Couple more questions. What do you think about the business today now compared to what the business was back in your younger years?
Well, I'll always be a 80s guy. I'll always prefer 80s wrestling. I respect everything that's done. I put it this way. I tell guys a lot now. I won't put down any style or anybody, anything like that, as long as they got two things to their stuff, and that's psychology and believability. If you have those two things, I don't care what you can do all the dives you want. Just make them mean something. Don't do them just to do them.
Right.
So that's all I actually ask, or all I prefer to watch is somebody being believable and somebody who has psychology.
Right. So you and I are pretty much the same age. You're about to be 54. I'm 53, which, by the way, sir, you're not old. You're just wise. How much longer are you going to do this?
Really, man? I had sinus surgery like 3 months ago, and I've wrestled twice since then, and I didn't think the words would ever come out my mouth that I enjoy being home.
Right.
I used to sit there and say, I was crippled, and then I would be like, well, no, because I'll get wheeled down to the ring in a wheelchair and be involved some way, somehow. So I guess I'll have to be 6 feet under before I give it up. But being home these last few months, I've really cut down the gym. The gym was 5-6 days a week for me, and now you'd be lucky to see me in the gym. I'm loving being home. I'm loving just coming straight home and cuddling with my fur babies and being able to just, hey, honey, let's go do this weekend. Let's go do this weekend, and being able to do it. So I've cut down to just, I do that show that you played, me and Salazar, that's for XIW in Panama City Beach, Florida. My buddy Adrian Whisper runs that. I've known him and his family since we broke in, and my wife's best friend moved down there, so she gets to see her. And then they run every other month, and then on the other month, I do Ozark Mountain Wrestling in Arkansas, and that show is literally 10 minutes from my son and granddaughter, so it allows me to see them. So that's really the only. I'm not going to turn anything. I won't turn down no bucket list matches or people I know I'm going to have fun. Stuff like it's got to really be something for me to leave now.
Right. Right. Well, I tell you what, man. Thank you so much for coming on my podcast. You've had an incredible career. There's so many things that we didn't even talk about yet. Because of time, you're always welcome on this podcast. Is there anything that you want to promote?
Man, no, I just always with you guys just say thank you to you guys for giving us a platform to promote ourselves and shit, just talk wrestling, man. I could sit there and talk wrestling all day and all night. My wife gets sick of it.
Yeah,
I just want to put you guys over, man. Just thank you for giving us platforms to promote ourselves.
I really appreciate that. Guys, thank you for tuning in. Please don't forget to subscribe. You guys have a great weekend this weekend.